Hi everyone, this week's Disney Infinity tutorial is based on the AT-ATs, or as I call them AT-ATs, but everyone tells me it's wrong. So a number of people have requested on what can you do with AT&T, and it's pretty much, there's not much you can do with them. They open and close doors and that's it. They won't even go to a path tool, which is really frustrating. So what I've done is I've created this base where you could have some sort of objective where you have to collect some treasures or you get a plan, but I based this clip on the Rogue One trailer, the new Star Wars film coming out this year. And what I want to do here is as we come running out the base, we come out in some sort of tropic environment surrounded by AT&Ts, and they will now start attacking us. So I've tried to pitch this from the trailer, and we've got a bit of type of swamp and water. Now, don't ever go me about the blaster sounds. That's the best effect they have available to us, so that's all we can use. So it's not going to get any better. But this is the explosions, and the explosions are random, so they're not always the same every time. And if you get hit in the centre of those, you will get killed. I've also put some targets on the AT&Ts, so if you shoot them, and you shoot all the targets on them, you'll burst them into flames. So that one now has been shot. It's now burst into fire, and you'll now notice it's no longer firing, and it's all on fire. And then you've got to go through and destroy the other AT&Ts or make it to where they're part of the object. You've got to escape without dying. So I'm going to go through every element of this, building this completely from scratch. So showing you how to build the doors, showing you how to get the AT&Ts to fire, how to get the explosions to occur, how to put the environment in. So I'm going to go through each of those elements. So hope you enjoy and hope you find something out that you quite like. So like I said, we're going to start on a completely blank canvas, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Mulan power disc. That'll give me the nice backdrop, the tropical backdrop that I find is quite good, so we'll add that on. That gives us our little trees and stuff, so that's where our setting is. There's a bit of weather. There are various different ones you can use. You don't have to use the power disc, you can use ones on the setup. And obviously I'm going to build the base first, because that's the starting point. When you come out of those doors, that's what triggers the AT&Ts to attack. So I'm going to put our base down, so just going to expand the ground out, and like I say, completely showing you every element from here. If we're going to line the thing up. I haven't been drinking, honest. Right, so there's the base where I'm going to build it. So what I'm going to use here is I'm going to go to Toy Origins, and I'm going to go to the Speed Box. Is it Speedway? Which one is it? I can never remember which one it is. Hold on. Yeah, the Speedway. The Speedway one. If you get this thing, which is, I say, they're dirt cheap now. This little playset unlocks various different tools, so you get a lot of frozen stuff on there, and also, but you get these 4 components, which are the hanger. The docking bay hanger, and you have this lovely component here which has got a nice door with a grated edge on it, which is really quite cool. So it's a really good little tool. But the stupid thing on this tool is you've got a door here, and you expect that there's logic to that where the door opens and closes. Nope, there is no logic at all with that door. It's permanently open, so we're going to have to create the door. So I bring in that docking bay in. Okay, and what I'm going to need to do now, and as like I've done on my other clips, you know, the Death Star hanger and the other options, I'm going to use my path tool. So I'm going to my Creativity Toys, and I'm going to choose my Path Creator. And now I need to line this up so it's lined up with the door. So you see I'm spinning it around, trying to line up with the grate. See, I've lined it up with the grate, based it at the bottom of the ground. Yeah, now I'm going to fly through this, but you can tie this up more, probably have it halfway sunken into the ground, because whatever panel I put is going to be in the middle. But I put it bang in the middle, right? Hold the X button down to start the path, and drag it way down underground out of the way. So drag it right straight down. Okay, so you can see it's completely under the ground. I'm quite happy with that. Press X to confirm that one, and then circle out. That's now done. Okay, so we've now got our tool done here. So that's where the door is going to slide down. So what I now need is, I need some basic shapes. So I'm going to go to my Simple Toys and my filters. And I'm going to go straight across and get my 2 flat panels, which are right at the far end. The other ones, they're my 2 panels underneath. So I'm going to click onto those. So I put 2 of those, because I need 2 of those to do the width. And obviously I need to make it look like a door. So while in Spark mode, I'm going to go to each one of those panels, and I'm going to change the format of them. Or not Spark mode in this particular case. But I want a dark toney colour, and I believe this one in modern is quite good. So I'm going to set that to modern, and I'm going to do the same to the other one. Okay, and I've done this with the Death Star hanger, but again we're just going straight down instead of sideways. Okay, now I need to attach both of these to this path. Okay, now as soon as I do it, it's going to start moving. So I'm going to go to the properties of that path and say, actually I don't want it too quick at the moment, so I'm going to change the speed of that and bring it down. I don't want the doors to shoot down too quickly, so probably drop it down to about 30. Okay, so that gives me time to get to those doors. So grab the first one, press the square button, you point locator and add it to that little path. So as soon as I do it, I'll click to that path, it will start to move down the screen. As you'll see, it starts moving. Now I'm jumping on the settings straight away of that and getting to the properties of that item. Yeah, so the properties I'm okay happy with, but the thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the horizontal offset and I'm going to move it 6 one way and 6 other. So in this case I'm going negative, so I'm moving it minus -6 on the screen. Yeah, and I'm going to do the same with the other one, and that's just going to keep going down. That's perfect. So I now do the other side. So I can link it to that path if I can. The path tool's in the way at the moment. It'll just move out of the way because it keeps on a loop at this present stage. Toy box path, highlight the item, and then I'm going to go to properties of that tool, and now do the opposite horizontal offset to match the other side. So I've gone 6 the other, so I've gone 6 either side now. So both doors now, you've got 2 panels that will go down the side, so it looks sealed at this particular moment. Now they're not set up the same, but as soon as we load it up, it will do. So what we need to do now is we need to activate those buttons. So we're going to go to our filters and go back to our creativity toys, and we're going to get a button. Now you'll notice when I'm building this, I'm building the actual logic first. I'm not actually building the environment. I'm going to the logic first, roughly, and then I'll add the environment afterwards, because that will conform to what I need it to do, because it gets quite messy. So I'm trying to get the logic first. I'll have a button to open it and a button to close it. Okay, they're my 2 tools. So on the first button here, this is my close button. I'm going to do new logic connection. When pressed, I'm going to click onto my path tool, and I'm going to make sure on the path tool, and I'm going to reset and stop. Okay, so that will stop the tool. And on that button, I'm going to press the logic again. When pressed, click on that tool. I'm going to do reset and play, and that will open the tool up. Okay, so I've now got my 2 options on the screen. So if I come out of my Spark mode and switch the items off, it will set those items to the same time. So if I press those buttons there, they both now will move together because I've reset both items. So they'll come together and then the items will move down. Now I haven't changed the path tool, so they're going to loop back up. They're going to constantly loop through if I don't stop anything. Okay, and what I've done on the other button is to stop it on that particular screen. So shoot them again, they'll start to move, count to 3 as they move down, both will move down and scroll through. Here we go, and the door will open up. And we want to charge out here and have my AT-ATs attackers only start attacking us when we run through that door. Now as you'll see, they've looped back through again. Yeah, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to just stop this, so they're both set on reset, and I'm going to go to each of those doors and go to the properties of those doors, go to properties, and go toy box path, and we're going to go down to our option and do movement is play one way and stop. And we haven't switched off the tools, we're going to leave them all on, so when it loads up it'll instantly start to move and close, but we'll reset that with the auto trigger move. So we have to do it with both panels, by the way, not just one. There's 2 panels you have to do, so play one way and stop. Okay, that's that set up. Right, so that's our door. That will trigger the item up, and when we shoot the door, they will now open. And as the doors slide down, they won't reappear. They now won't re-loop back up. They'll just stay down, and I can go charging out and be attacked by the AT-ATs. So what we're going to need to do now is add some AT-ATs. Okay, so that's the door done. We'll worry about the rest of the base in a moment. So let's go to the other side. So I want to run all the way across here, and this is going to be open ground. So I'm going to go back to my creativity toys and go back to my toy origins. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to landscape because I'm going to put the landscape on the other side. So let's choose my other landscape. Don't need the big heavy ground. because it's going to be the other side. But as map design goes, I'm building it for what area I need, because you've got to run across the entire section. Yeah, I'm not too worried about how big it is. The map will grow generically and be the way I want it. So I'm going to put my AT&T at the other side. So you've got to run all the way across, being shot at, and have those particular items. So let's go back to my one tool and let's go back to Toy Origins. And in the Rise Against the Empire, you've got a number of elements there. Where is it? Next one, Rise Against the Empire. We should have our AT&Ts in this section. But this one is so good because look how many objects you've got in this particular playset. You've got Star Destroyer, Speeder, Turret Gun. There's quite a fair number in here. I'll have to say, I'll keep shouting out, one of the best playsets to get. So many good Star Wars toys. Right, I'm going to put my AT&T in front of it. So lining it up so it's in front of the ship. I'm going to move it back a bit so you've got to charge out some distance. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Obviously I'm going to fill some ground in later, but that'll be where I'll put the AT&T. So the big question is, how do we get the AT&T to fire? So what you'll notice, you've got some cannons in there, and trying to line them up is quite tricky. So what I'm going to use is some locators. So I'm going to go back to my creativity toys, and I'm going to use some locators. One is going to be where the explosion is, and one is going to be the trigger. Now, if you see my clip how to create an atom bomb, I have a trigger that sets all the explosions off, and this is going to be what fires the cannon across the screen. So I'm going to pick one locator, and as you'll notice, I can't line the locator exactly where I want them. It's a really awkward position. So I've stuck it in between the front two cannons, just a little bit lower. So that's where the explosion is going to appear to look like it's fired. And hopefully, if it's bang in the middle, it should change. The other locator I need is the trigger. Okay, that's the thing going to move across. So I now need a path tool, and I need to space out the path tool with a number of points. And with an AT&T, it fires twice, so there's like a double barrel shot. So what I'm doing is just trying to position it. Now, you can place this anywhere, it doesn't need to be there, but I'm just trying to count some spots. So I've got a start point, I have a checker whether to continue, I have the first shot, and I have the last shot. So I need 4 points in here, obviously the ones first starting. And what we're going to do is we're going to run the first checkpoint through this ground. So the one below the locator is going to go through that screen and trigger this item off. So I'm going to just change the speed of the path because I don't want it too fast, because it'll be too quick of a shot. So we can reduce that down, probably 60. I think it's about the same as walking speed. Is quite easy. And what we're going to do is that bottom locator we're going to have moving across that particular tool. So on there, I'm going to connect that to this path. Right, so I'm going to go to New Path Properties and connect this locator to this path. And so now we have the trigger go across. Bang, 1, 2, and the second one will shoot. So that's the trigger going through. Now when it does the last two, that is when it fires. So if I go to the properties of this, you'll see the speed is 60. Yeah, probably want to go a little bit faster actually. Make it 80, see how that goes. So as it goes across, 1, 2, and it fires the next one. So yeah, that's a bit quicker, about 80. And again, you can change the position of those so you can see how it's going through, but that's my trigger. So we now need some components to get that effect to occur. Now I need 2 actual items additional to this. I need a logic gate and I need an effects generator. So if I go back to my creativity toys and let's go and find those. So all the way across. And what we're going to do is where's my logic gate? Where is it? It's got the thumb side, so I've got to add it to my phone. There's my logic gate, so I'm going to add that. And you'll notice I just stick these on the map, and I'll mention this again in my clips. I just chuck them all on and I worry about position afterwards. And the other one I need is, where's the effects generator? One more, there you go, and the effects generator. They're my the two items that I require. The logic gate's got the clever part, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So what we need to do now is we need to link this effects generator to the second locator. So I'm going here and do locator, and it's the one that's in between the cannons. So can we link this to this locator? Not the moving one. The moving one doesn't matter at all. So that is linked to that effects generator. Okay. Now what we're going to say here is when the other locator reaches this point, I want it to make a firing effect. Okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to say when that point reaches it. So we're going to right click onto there. New logic connection, when point reached on path, yep, I'm going to point to my effects generator. I want to make an explosion or a flash. Yeah, so can you place once, and it's a flash, and I believe I use the radial blast. Okay, so that'll give you the effect that the thing is just shot off. Now if you look at the top, bam, it flashes. Every time it's that point, bang, it fires. But it's like a double cannon, so I want the second one to do exactly the same thing. So in there, when new logic connection, when point reached on path, can the same thing occur again with this item? Can you play once? Can it be a blast? I've gone too far. Where is it? Where is it? Sorry, it's a flash, not a blast. It's a flash, and it's a radial blast. Now you watch, it'll go fire twice, bang, bang. But the effect needs something additional to that. It needs a sound to let you know something is fired. Yeah. At the moment, it's just flashing. You don't know something's happened. So we're going to have an effect which gives an explosion. So I'm going to go back to my toys, and I'm going to go down across. Now in your gameplay toys, you have a speaker. Okay, so we're going to bring the speaker in. I'm just going to chuck this on here. So same thing applies. Whenever there's the point reaches the thing, I need a sound effect to occur. So we've got the visual effect. Now we need the sound. So we're going to do a new logic connection when point reached on path. Can we play a sound? And obviously you can look at these various sounds and look at the various options. The ones I've got is action, and they're all different types of sound. But the best one we've got, and why they haven't included Star Wars sounds, I have no idea, but is the laser gun. So there you go. So that's the first one, but the second one. So I need to do the same now for the second point. So on the second point, I'm going to do new logic connection when point reached on path. Can I have the explosion, and can I have the same sound effect again? Okay, I'm going way too far again. There you go. So you now get the two sounds. Okay, but the further away we get, the less chance we can hear it. We can only hear it if we're right on top of it. So look, as I wander way back here, I can hardly hear it, and it now just looks flashing. I want the sound of it. I want to know this battle going across. I want you to hear it straight away. Yeah, and the closer we get, the sound comes. Now, one thing you can do with the speaker, that speaker setting is set to be that when you get close you can hear it, but I want it to be heard throughout. So if you get to the properties of that speaker, there's an option to say 3D sound. If you switch that off, and I can adjust the sound of it, it means the 3D sound doesn't take to depth. So now it's constant wherever you are. Doesn't matter how far you are, you'll still always hear it. So if you want an effect to be heard continuously where you are, you can hide the speed of the speaker wherever you like, switch off the 3D effect, and now you can hear it. But the only problem is now it's constant, it doesn't stop. Yeah, it keeps on firing away, it keeps on blasting away on the screen. I'm just going to change the volume down. I'm going to get it too loud, because I'm not just having the one AT&T here. I'm going to like several AT&T, so it's going to be a complete blur of laser cannons. But it is firing. So how do we stop it firing continuously, and how do we get it to do what we want it to do? Well, this first point is the bit that stops this. And what we do is when point reaches on path, I would like to go to that logic gate, and I'd like to input a signal. Okay. Now we know all logic gates, when you open up a game, it is always open. So what we can do here is on output of a logic gate, can you reset the path? So reset and play. So now look, the logic gate the dot doesn't move across. It's now fixed in that loop. It will not go back. So it will never fire those two guns. Now all I need to do to fire the gun is to close that gate. So the gate will start open, yeah, so therefore it's in a loop. But when I'm ready, I just send a signal to that logic gate, say close the gate, and then the dot will go across, and then the thing will start to fire. So that's how you can control your AT&T and when you want it to fire without having to worry about turning the paths on or turning them off. Okay, so we've now got our AT&T firing, and that occurs when we run through the doorways. So the next section we're looking at is, so when it does fire, we want some explosions to occur. Now I've done a few clips now, so I can keep referring to these particular items, but one of the clips I did was how to call in X-Wing support, where X-Wings fly over and give you a bombard. Now I did a way where you had trigger areas. I've now got a better way of making explosions occur, and that's using a path tool. Okay, because what I was trying to do is when a ship flew to a certain area, but now I've got points and location in these tools, and what we're going to do is it's going to be like a hammer dropping down. So what I'm doing is going to create a straight vertical path. Yeah. So I'm just going to click on here. So I'm using the path tool. I'm going to create a path that goes straight down, and this basically drops the hammer for the explosion. Now the reason why we put it up high is the area around this hammer that drops, anything enters that area is going to get killed. So I have 2 points on it. I have the first one to go down, yeah, so I've got the first one on the screen. I need a point before we hit the ground, so that at least above head height character, yeah. So you see I've spaced the gap for it, and the rest then goes straight down. Now don't do a point on the ground, make sure it goes right down underground and way underneath. Doesn't matter how deep it goes, as long as it clears the ground level way below, because I don't want you to run over it when there is an explosion and get killed. So it's got to be far enough down that when I link the explosion area to it, it's going to be too far from it. Right, so that's my little hammer dropping down. So what I need now is a locator, and this locator is like the trigger with the cannon fire, is going to fall away down the screen. Now I want an explosion here, so I need 2 of these. One is for the explosion, and the other one is for when the actual item drops. Okay, so that's where I want the explosion to appear. Okay, I don't know why I put stop there. I don't need that. What I need a couple of other tools. Right, I need a dynamic trigger, because a dynamic trigger is going to be an area around it. Once your character is in that area, you're going to get killed. So I need a dynamic trigger and I need a kill switch. Okay, and I'm going to put that kill switch that when you get into this particular area, you're going to die. So if you then go to your dynamic trigger, do a new locator connector and link it to the locator that's not where the explosion is, but where the item we're going to add to the path in a moment. So what we're going to say with that locator, going to do a new logic connection. When you enter that area, yeah, and you can do player. Now in this case, I've chosen player, but I would do any, because it's an explosion. Anyone gets killed. Okay, but when you go into any player, I want you to defeat them. I want you to kill them off. So we're going to say that person then gets killed. Okay, now what we also do is we have to go to the properties of the dynamic trigger, and you have to change this. So this is the range of it. So the range is 10. If it's too wide, as soon as you walk up into it, you're going to die. So I'm going to bring it down to 5. So it's quite a close area. Yeah. Okay, so if you get too close to that item, you're going to get killed. So if I just come off here for a second, I'm going to go back to my character. I'm going to start running to it. Now, at first glance, you always think it's the dot on the screen. Okay, but although I've linked it to that locator, it's actually still the trigger. Okay, it's still actually the dynamic trigger that you can see highlighted, but I'm trying to work out how close it is until you get killed. Now remember, it's not the dot, it's the path. So I've forgotten one very important thing. I forgot to flip in and change the setting to that. But if I get too close, I'm going to die. So at the moment I'm not dying. I go, why doesn't it work? And that's because on that setting there, if we go to properties, I forgot to change it to say not this toy. It's got to be all the way down at the bottom. It has to be locator. Okay? So now when I come out, so if I enter this group, now I head towards the locator. If I enter the group, I get killed. So that's where the explosion is going to be, but I don't want it to happen. So what we're going to do is we're going to link that locator to the path above it. And I put it high enough up so that you won't get killed when you run past it. And then when we trigger the explosion, as it comes down, it will go, you'll enter that area and it will kill you if you're into that particular zone. So that's the reason for the hammer type effect. Now one thing we do when we link that item to path, the item's going to be moving up and down, and there's a couple of settings we need to do with that object. So what I'm going to do is going to make my life a little bit easier this time. Half the time you see me do a clip trying to grab the object. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch this path off. So I'm going to go to the properties of the path, and I'm going to actually switch the item off and say it's off at this particular moment. So when I attach an object, nothing's going to occur. It gives me plenty of time to do it. So I'm now going to link this locator to the path which is directly above it. Now because the path's not doing, nothing happens, and normally it would now jump to the top of the screen and start coming down, but because I've switched it off, it doesn't work at all on the screen. It gives me that little extra time to worry about my other settings. Now what we're going to do on here is I can now change the setting without having to chase it. And the property of this tool is that I don't want it to keep jumping up and down. It only occurs once when I trigger the actual item up. So instead of being looped, I'm going to change the movement style for that path, and I'm going to do one way and stop. Okay, so I'm going to switch that on, and that's basically all I'm going to do when it loads up. So that path tool, when it loads up the game, that will drop down, it will trigger everything off and then disappear. But because we're hidden in the map, you don't get to see it. So I now need the explosion to occur, so I do need the effects generator. So I need that item by the side, so I'll put this here by the side of it. And what we're going to say is, right, can we go to new locator connection? And this one is not linked to the one that's going to be linked to the path. It's the one that's at the bottom of the path on that dot. Okay. Now I've linked it to that particular dot. Now I'm going to go to the dot on the path, which is halfway down, and say when point reached on path, can we play once? And this only appears in the play once. It's going to do light explosion and do huge explosion. So when that path comes down, it will tick that item and an explosion will occur. Okay, so if I now switch this item on, we should see this working. So go to properties, turn it back on. I have to be quicker because the angle it does it. I can change the speed of it at all on the screen, but once I switch it back on, it will then move down on the screen. I need to be quite quick. I don't want it too slow, so make it 200. So that's going to do 200 and shoot down. I think I played around with this setting. I think I made it 300. I wanted it quite quick. There was quite a long delay between the two. Because remember, it's firing from the cannon, so it wasn't too long a delay. So if I just go back to properties and switch it on, okay, and I flick that switch on, you now heard the explosion. That wasn't quick enough, but that now moves down. It fired the explosion, and it now rests underneath the ground. It's now stopped. Okay, and that is our first explosion. Now I don't want you to have the choice to say, well, how many explosions do you need it to do? What I want it to do is I want 3 or 4 explosions, so you don't know where it's going to go. Yeah. So you don't know which that item is going to moment. So let's just put a button in at the moment, just to show it working. So I'm just going to create a quick button to quick test, and I do these occasionally just to make sure I've got the logic right. That is all set up, but it's only designed to play once. So I'm just going to do one button press. Can you do reset and play? Okay. So as it comes down, it hits the dot and play. So occasionally chuck a button in just to do the test. So if I go over to this particular item, press the button, bar comes down, and it blows up. So now we need to do is just test it to see, will it kill us? So if I stand near the object where the item's going to, I'm going to shoot the trigger, so it'll fire it again. Bar comes down and it kills me because I'm now in that area and I've been killed. So the explosion tool does work on that particular setting. Yeah, so stand again, let's shoot it again. Now I'm just far enough away, I just got caught. So it's good enough range that I could get damaged or killed with that particular item. Now one thing you noticed there was still too long a delay between the explosion and death, so I'm now going to increase the speed of this because there was like an explosion, good second later, then I got killed. So I'm going to increase it to 300, so hopefully the explosion will kill me at the same time. But again, while you're building your logic, you've got these little tests that you can do. So fire again. Okay, a little bit better. You may want to try and play around with that, try and get that faster, or reduce the gap between the dot. See, now I wasn't through that particular setting. You can play around with this, get with the setting that we want, which the delay is, and sometimes the delay could be because the lines, there's too big a gap between the start and the second option. But that there is our trigger for our first explosion, so I can get rid of this button now. I don't need that. Everything else I do need. That works fine. So I've just jumped ahead here, and what I'm going to do now is repeat the process. You'll see I've already created one. So I'm going to quickly add the items on. I want a trigger switch. I need one for each item. I need an effects generator. So effects generator, I'm just placing these down the line. Okay, I need some locators. So basically just repeat the process. So you'll see I've done 2 now already, and now I'm going to do number 3 and 4. So I need 2 of these items in. And now I need my path tool to create my explosion down the middle. But I've created 4 particular routes. So I've done the first one, I repeat it again for the second stage, and repeat it again for the third and for the fourth now. So this is my bar. I'm going to scroll that straight down. Remember to have a stop halfway through, make sure it goes clear, and click X on the screen. Okay, so I can come back out. I can do the same with another point. And like I say, just go through the clip that I've just shown you how to do those paths and just re-add those paths in. But I've staggered them coming away from the AT-AT. So I can have 1 explosion or 2, and I'm then going to get it to randomly pick different explosions. So I do my other option on the screen. But sometimes once you get used to it, you can then quite quickly chuck this in a batch process. So I've done 2 dots. Okay, so now what I need to do is I need to link the explosion and the dots to the various components. Now if you do switch these all off while you're building it, make sure you switch them back on, then you wonder why it's not working, why the explosion doesn't actually appear. So I'm switching these off, going to change the settings, and then I'll switch those back on. But what we're going to do is we're going to have these 4 lines all waiting for us to explode. Okay, so I'm connecting with one dot for the explosion, move the other one across, and set the other one up. Okay, so if I leave it there now, I'm going to now speed it forward to where we get the explosions to occur. So I now have my 4 explosions set up, and at this present moment the AT-AT is only triggered when I close that gate, and that will start to fire. Now when it starts to fire, I want the explosions to be pulled off the screen. So I need a particular tool, so what we're going to do here is we're going to just test it and emulate the system working, so you see it working. So again, I'm chucking another button in to switch these items on and off, and then I will delete these buttons off. So when I press that button, when button press, I'm going to close that gate. And if I close that gate, what happens will do now is it will then make those items move across, which will then make the firing go. Now I'll put this other button in here, and when I press that button, it'll reopen the gate, and that will stop the item from firing. Yeah? So that will do my 2 options, and that will then fire down the screen. Now the issue I've got here is I need, when it does fire, for the explosions to occur scattered throughout the list. So the other tool that I need is the randomizer. Now this is one tool in all my clips I haven't used yet. So let me find it. There you go, the randomizer. And what this will do is it randomly picks a number of items. Okay, so when does the thing fire? The thing fires when those 2 dots are reached. So if I go to the first point and go new point, new path, when point reached on path, okay, I'm going to point to my randomizer, okay, and I'm going to say, right, what I'd like you to do there is, can you activate the randomizer? The randomizer will generate a number, okay, and what we're going to say, right, new logic connection, when the randomizer comes up with number 1, so when it comes up with number, can you reset the first explosion? So can I do reset and play? That will get the thing to go down and explode and set the trigger going, set the hammer going and make the explosion. So we go back to our randomizer and say here, right, new logic connection, when the button number it comes up with is 2, can you trigger off the second column? Now the randomizer will only pick numbers where the logic has been set. So if you haven't set a logic for number 5 will never get picked. So new logic connection, we want number 3. And can we set explosion number 3 off? So reset and play on that option, which will then make the locator drop down and trigger off those explosions. So the last one we do, new logic connection, when randomize equals 4. Can we do the 4th one? Can we do reset and play? And then that will now blow. So when the first shot goes through and hits that dot, it'll choose one of those explosions. Now the good thing is when we get to the second explosion, so on that particular option there I can say, right, when new path connection, when point reached on path, can you go back to the randomizer and activate it again? And therefore the first and second shot won't always be the same place. Could be exactly the same place, but it will differ every single time. So therefore you can't guarantee when you run out where the explosion is going to occur. It will give a random effect explosion. We know there's 4 areas where it's going to happen, but you won't, as a user, will see it. So if we switch this on, so let's move over here to the side, so you can see the AT-AT and the explosions just to prove a point. I'm going to shoot my first button. So the button closes the gate, it now fires, and we now get different explosion occurs. Now if I run into those explosions, it should kill me. So I'm now coming in the danger zones, and so far I'm okay. Now you see here, I've closed the gate, I've reopened the gate, and therefore the item stops. So let's start it off again. There it goes, and the explosion starts occurring. So if I charge in through this list, I got killed there by that explosion. I'm just going to avoid this at the moment. So that proves that works. And by pressing that button there, what that does now is that closes the gate and it stops the fire. So that one trigger now, you'll see the locators trapped in loop, switches all those other items off. All those are controlled by that gate opening and closing. So I'm deleting these buttons, don't need them anymore. So what we need to do is, how do we trigger this in the game? So what I've used here is I've just gone back to the gateway and I've gone to my creativity toys and I've pulled in the trigger area. And this trigger is that when you run through this map, as you run through the door, what it will do is, so I'm going to just put it in front of the doorway and I'm just going to stretch it out. So let's move this locator and let's stretch that across. So as I run through there, that is going to now trigger the item that's going to get my AT-ATs to attack. So you come running through the door, as you come through there, it will do that particular item. So as I come through there, that's what will trigger it. So when I run through there, that means attack. So I'm going to do new logic connection when I enter that area, and I do player, any player, just in case I have stormtroopers running through. I need to go all the way to the side, and I say, right, I've run through here, can we switch that, can we close that gate? Just like the button did, that's now what the trigger is. So I've used buttons to test it, and we go back, so we've now got a trigger area that's now going to open that gate. That particle will go across and they will then start firing. That firing will then trigger all the explosions to occur. Okay, so we run through there and that's what starts the chain reaction off. And basically we're creating like a web of interlink and logic, but I want to show you from scratch so you see the whole thing open up. Now there is one other tool I want to pick from this list, which I don't think I've used also. Where is it? See if I can find it. Dun dun dun. Level start, that's it, level starter. Now the level starter here is that when you load the game up, it will set and close and open the gates. So what I can do here is that when we do various options, we can say, right, on level starter, what would you like to do with this gate? So I'm going to say, right, the option is catalyst, when the thing starts off, can we reset and stop the gate? Otherwise those doors are going to slide open. So the first thing it does, when we load up our level, can you make sure that door's shut? Another thing I like to do when we load it up is, can we close the door of the AT&T? That's the one bit of logic you can do with this. So in this case I can say on load, can we close the door? So those doors will now close when we open it up. So the next big question really is, how do we blow up an AT&T? Well, what I'm going to use here is I'm just going to my creativity toys and I'm going to go to my gameplay toys, and there are some objects there, some collectibles. One of them is called an orb, and I'm going to use these orbs scattered around the AT&T. And when we shoot these, it's going to record how many we shot. It'll blow the actual item up. So I'm going to look through my list, and if I scan through here, we have various different collectibles. I'm going to use these orbs. Now these orbs I'm going to position around the AT&T, so if you shoot them, then that will be when you've done it. So I'm just going to put this here on just above, just slightly above it. So that's one of them. Click that on there, and then the other tool, I'll put that in the center. So when I shoot both of those, if I do it too center, I won't be able to see it. So I'm just going to move probably slightly to the edge a little bit so we can see it. Otherwise, I won't be able to blow the thing up. So if you shoot those two tools, that will then make a chain reaction which will destroy the AT&T. Now these orbs you can link to past, but when I linked them to past, you couldn't actually destroy it after that. So I don't know how it works. So they do need to be static and let them move on their own. Okay, and you can put these on, and you can even use it like you do with the Star Destroyer. Now I've got two orbs, so I'm going to need a tool now to count how many I've destroyed. So there is an item there called a counter. And again, if you look at my how to fire a laser cannon, I use something similar to this as well. So I'm going to bring my counter in. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I need to change the property of that counter to say, right, how many orbs do we have? Now the default I believe is 2. So we look at there, you'll see the default count is 2. So when it reaches 2, that will then trigger off the actual item. It's set to 0 when it resets, so I'm quite happy with that. So we know that it's already designed default to 2. I could have put 4, 5 in, and in that case I would have had to increase that counter to 4 and 5. Now you've just noticed I've also now gone for add logic. When that target is reached, can we now open that logic gate in front of the AT&T that will stop the cannons from firing? I'm also going to do it when the new target is reached. Can we open up the AT&T doors? So the AT&T will stop firing as well as opening up. So it looks like the thing's malfunctioned and everything's opened up on the screen. So that's the two logics on the screen. So we've got two targets. When they're both reached, they'll fire up. Now the other thing is I'll need to give the effect that it's damaged. So I want effects generator to give me the effect that there is an actual fire that's occurred. So from this counter is going to be the third item, and that counter there is saying, right, new logic connection, when target reached, can we now make the fire effect? So can we play on a continuous loop now? I don't want it to play once, otherwise you just go, I want the fire to continually be there, so I'm going to choose fire, and I'm going to choose smouldering fire in this particular option, but you can choose different variations, whichever you fancy. So we shoot the two targets, we increase that counter, yeah, when it gets to 2, we close the logic gate, we open the doors, and we set the effect for the fire to occur. So the only thing I need to do now is where do I want the fire to appear? So I'm going to now bring in a number of locators and link it to that effects generator. So I'm going to bring my locators in here now, chuck a few in. Now in this clip I don't do too many here, but in the final version I did, I put loads on, the more the merrier. So I'm now going to go to that effects generator and link them all to those locators. So enter effects locator, next one again, new locator, enter effects locator. So I'm going to pass that all the way through the entire list. Okay, and now all I can do is you can have as many of these locations as you like, it's not an issue. And now I'm going to position those around the AT&T. So you see there I put the locators quite close to the effects generator, link them all up, and then move them around. It gives me much more time and space. It's a lot quicker I find doing it that way around. So I'm now going to position them where I want these 5 bits of flames of fire to appear. But again here, I'm trying to remember all the elements that trigger these particular items off. And this only happens when the actual orbs have been destroyed. Now if you have it too inside the AT&T, you won't actually see the fire, so I'll stick it so they're just slightly on the outside, on the edge of it. I'll just move the last one. Right, so that now sorts out the connection. Now, in my rush to show you this clip, I forgot one important part, and that important part is I forgot to count when I shot taggers. I've got the counter, but nothing actually physically increases the counter. So I'm just going to jump back, because when I tested it, I realised it failed. Okay, so I thought I'd finished it, but the one thing I forgot to do was do the counter. So hold on for a second. So what I've done is, you'll see now the doors are closed because I reloaded the item up, but I've got a very important part, is that when you shoot those targets, you need to acknowledge that you've actually shot them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just moving that to the edge, and I need a logic on that counter. So go to that orb, I'm going to go onto there, new logic connection. When broken or collected, yeah, can you increase the counter by 1? And that's the one thing I forgot to, otherwise it would stay at 0 all this time. So in my rush to get this done, I forgot to do that, so increase that by 1, and the same with the other one. So when you go there, new logic connection, increase that by 1, and that will increase that item. Now, depending on how you do this game, we want to load it up or what you say, save it, or how you change settings. So another option I'm going to do here is new logic connection. When we catalyze, or when we actually initialize the game, can I make sure all the orbs are reset? So just in case I destroy it in my test mode and it fails, I'd like to make sure that resets. So I'm going to each orb there and say, can you just reset them so they now show? So in case you're doing testing, you've got a load of these orbs and you destroy them by accident, at least this way, if you do, as soon as the game reloads up, they will reappear back on. Okay, so they're my 2 targets. Now, that theoretically is all the logic for one AT&T. So the downside is we're going to have to do that for as many AT&Ts as you want. You have to repeat that logic. You have to repeat that process going through. Yep. Now one thing I forgot to do is, I'm sorry, the last thing I forgot actually, just realised, is that when you die in explosion, I don't want you to start off where you got killed. I want you to come all the way back and have to do that charge all again. So I'm just going to use a checkpoint but in front of the door. And the option there is that when you go through there, you're going to get killed. So when you enter that area, we've set off the attack. So new logic connection, when entered, we've triggered off the gates. Yep. So what I'm going to do now is, what I'd like to do is, can you reset this checkpoint? Which means when you die, for everybody, you will reappear there, just in case you die on the screen. Okay, and another thing is, so people don't know, is you can make those properties of it so it's invisible, so you don't even know it's there. Yeah, so I'm going to hide that out of the way. So I just jumped to it. Now leaves for us to test this out. So if we shoot this door button here, the door will start to move, and this will now open up. Here we go. As soon as we run through, that noise lets us know that the checkpoint's done. The thing's now firing, and we're now getting the explosions occurring. And as I charge through the thing, will I make it all the way through? Yes! Oh, I got killed. I got so close, and it now restarts me back by the doors. I've got to do the whole charge again. Now the difference is I've got to make sure I'm right with the explosion so I can avoid it. Now in my final version I attacks all over the place, so there's explosions all over the side. But now as we run to the side, I can now shoot the orb. So shoot the first orb, that's the first one gone. Shoot the second one, doors open, it stops firing, and it's now on fire. And as you can see, there's only a few bits of flame, so I need to add a few more onto that. And that's all we do with logic. So all we've got to do now is add more AT&Ts and put some landscape to it, which I'm going to show you next. So you can see I've added the base, but more importantly you can now see I've added more AT&Ts, and I've now added all the logic for those particular elements. Now in this design part you'll notice I've kept all the logic still there on the screen so I can test it. I haven't done any backdrops or scenery yet. That's just to make sure I've got those working. The next stage after that is to get the scenery put in, but now I'm happy with that logic working. I can now add the hard stuff to it. So this is the next stage where I've now done the landscaping. Now one thing you'll notice here is the logic gates and all those other items have disappeared. That's because now I was happy with it. I moved them all down below the ground. Then I deleted all the ground out, and then I actually inserted the land that I wanted, because now I knew where I wanted the explosions. So you have to move them out of the way, otherwise they get in the place. And then I've used fantasy objects and chosen the Pirates of the Caribbean theme to give me my palm trees. And I've tried to scatter them around, so not think about too much where you place the trees to try and make it look natural. But as you can see, that's where all my logic's now been moved well out of the way, so it doesn't get in the way, and therefore allows me to place my map. And now I'm ready to play and kick ass against some AT&Ts. So let's have a look and see how it all works. So let's go recap. We shoot our door. That will trigger the button. Now as soon as the door opens, as we go into that trigger area, it's going to close all the gates around the AT&Ts. And as it closes all the gates, they all fire. So as I run through that door, that will now trigger all the ATs, and they now start firing, and they all fire from different angles. Okay, so they're all firing, and that's why the sound is erratic as well. It's all over the place. Now you could have had other characters following you, they could get killed. I get the first target, so it shows I've got one. I've got to get the next one, and there you go, 6-1. And now you see I've added more fire now, and the AT-AT is destroyed. And that's pretty much as most I can get out of an AT&T. I hope you find this clip of use. I hope you can give some ideas from it. Keep chucking your ideas and feedback. I'll try and come up with some more ideas on how to do certain things. I've got a couple of new different things now. I may have a break from Star Wars for a while, but I hope you like it, and please don't forget to like the clips. Many thanks, and cheers for watching.